Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's largest platform for entrepreneurs. I'm Sunanda Jaiseelan. If it matters to you, we've got it covered here on the show. Joining us are two young guns. First up is Instamojo. We're also in conversation with Moglix. Akash, thanks for taking the time to join us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. I want to start by talking first about Instamojo, and really ask for you to talk to our viewers about the business model that you have, because you are today. You've moved
Right.
fairly along the value chain when it comes to where you started out. If you can talk to our
hmm
viewers about the multiple verticals in which you're present.
Right. Hey, thanks, Sunanda. It's a pleasure to be here. So, I think to give you a brief, Instamojo helps small businesses in coming online and growing their business. We provide them with all sorts of tools that help them in their journey to grow online. Now, when you talk about products or lines of businesses, we basically have three lines of products here. One is payments, one is an online store where we help them set up their presence online, which is backed by a lot of other things, right? So let's say you need help in shipping your products. We have tools which help you engage with your customers and market to them. So all of that falls in the commerce or the online store bucket. And then we have credit. So we have Mojo Capital, where we extend small term loans to these businesses to help them manage their working capital and grow with that. So
Okay.
roughly, we we capture every aspect of the journey of a small business, right from starting and managing a business to growing it over a period of time.
Okay. I want to talk about the evolution really of
hmm
businesses on online platforms, particularly like yours. Let me first talk about the way businesses behaved in 2020 during the pandemic. I saw some data which said that you saw a nearly 30% jump when it came to new businesses signing on to platforms like yours, signing on specifically to business to Instamojo. Just talk
Right.
to our viewers about what are the benefits really of partnering with someone like yours. And did you see any
hmm
specific sectors which were perhaps signing on to Instamojo? Why, just give us some insights into why those sectors saw
Sure.
that spike,
Yeah.
and sectors which didn't. Then perhaps what they could have been losing out
Right.
on.
Right. So I think before I do that, I'll give you a bit of a backdrop. So
Yeah,
Instamojo, we started about 8 years or rather, back in 2012. And even
yeah.
before we started, we were always working on this thesis as to tomorrow internet and technology is going to come and it's going to change
Mm,
things in a very big way. And the Indian GDP is made up of these small businesses, MSMEs spread across the length
mm.
and breadth of this country. So how will they adopt technology? Because if you don't, you will be left behind. So it's within that space that we're always working on. And as you mentioned, right, one of the first products that we launched was a payment link, wherein every business could collect payments online using it. And if I tell you, right, when we go back to 2012, 13, 14, and so on, it wasn't easy. Businesses were always comfortable working with cash. Why do I need to adopt technology, collect payment online? Was a question many of them always kept asking. Over time, that got simplified because of the rise of e-commerce, and there were other events like demonetization and others which happened. So today,
Sure.
no one questions that. Anyone who wants to
Mm.
collect payments, it's default, right? Your customers want to pay online, you will be online, right? And now you also accept the simplicity, the convenience that comes with it. What we
Sure.
saw in 2020 was a similar shift towards coming online, wherein the
Mm.
fact that you need to have your online presence, the fact that you need a way to run your business online, and even when the nation was on lockdown, I think it accelerated the momentum. While every
Okay.
business did know over time that you want to have an online presence, I think we felt that getting accelerated in a very big way. And I think this is a
Okay.
momentum shift which isn't going to go back, right? So,
Mm.
like you mentioned, we saw a lot of increased interest. The daily the number of businesses who wanted to come set up their shop online,
Mm.
that grew by 30-40%, and this is without us doing any kind of marketing or promoting this. So, COVID,
Sure.
of course, had a big impact over there. A lot of businesses, especially women across the country, they are setting up their shop and, selling all kinds of products, right from your art creations, handicrafts, to stuff like, homemade pickles and many other things. So I
Yeah.
think it's the onset of a great new trend, whereas consumers, we all are looking to shop online, but also locally. We want to support businesses who are near and around us. At the same
Mm.
time, a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses feel that you want to have that direct relationship with your customers. You want to sell to them directly, and which is why a lot of them are setting up their stores and adopting online in different ways. They are using our
Okay.
platform to set up their store, to collect payments, to ship their products, and many other things.
Okay. Okay, so that's as far as Instamojo is concerned. But I want to talk about the big picture. Most MSMEs in India today, data in fact
Right.
showing that nearly 60% of small businesses in India today don't have a website, don't have any sort of a digital presence. And that's the market
Yes.
that you are talking to. How are you addressing this challenge? What would you like to tell an MSME watching today? Whether they're saying it's cost, whether they're saying know-how, how do they really overcome that?
So there are different ways to do it. So one thing that we have to realize is at an individual level, the MSME does not have a lot of money to spend. At the
Yeah.
same time, the amount of there is limited know-how in terms of what they know and how much time they want to spend on anything, right? Because if this is a product and interface which is very difficult for them to use, so at first glimpse it doesn't click what you're being offered, then you've basically lost the
Mm.
cause. So within
Okay.
that, what we do realize and what we have always felt from day one is this is going to be a very long journey. It's not it's not something where you launch a product and a lot of these MSMEs will lap it up. No, there is a lot of
Yeah.
education, a lot of awareness which goes behind it, and that's what we've been doing, investing in from day one. 2 years back, we launched this initiative called Mojoversity, which is our
Mm-hmm.
attempt at helping MSMEs upskill themselves. So what we
Okay.
do is we launch short courses over there, courses on very topics which are of relevance to a lot of MSMEs. Topics like how do I do GST, or how do I market my products online? How do I have my social media presence? Like simple topics which every business wants to know of, and we've created a lot of videos or courses around this which are not very long, so it's not something that takes you weeks or months to go through it. It's just going to take you a couple of hours, and that helps you with a very good primer in terms of how this can help you. What we saw is over the
Mm.
last year, when everything was locked down, businesses had more time at their hands, and we saw a
Sure.
significant uptake in how many businesses were coming onto Mojoversity and using it to upskill
Okay.
themselves. So what
Sure.
that clearly proves to us is everyone wants to learn more. It's just that you need these
Okay.
things in a more accessible, a more digestible format, right? Something which really makes sense for you. And I think that has always been a thesis for us in the way we market, in the way we build our products. Make it something that adds value to the business, helps them understand what this really means for them, instead of making it very technically abstract or very difficult for them. So I think that's one of the things.
Sure.
The other thing
Okay.
that we've done is on the business front, right? Like how do we charge these businesses, right, for all the products that they use? And what we felt is what we always felt is that businesses are very shy towards spending and spending money upfront, and that is changing over
Okay.
time. But as a first time business on the internet, you want to see how things work for you, right? How does it make sense?
Mm.
And over time, will you be willing to spend much more money on it? So what we've done there is we have products wherein they can pay on a transaction basis, wherein every time you transact, we make money, right? There is a small commission that you pay, but beyond that, there is nothing else.
Yeah.
There are other
Okay.
products for which we charge a subscription, wherein we charge you on a monthly or an annual basis. So these are
Sure.
geared for the Indian businesses, based on how big you are and what is it that you really need. So across a bunch of
Mm.
the products that we have, we charge them in different ways. It's transaction, a bit of subscription. So that's how it really works for them.
Okay. You also work in the lending space. You also play in the lending
Right.
space. Only about 4% of MSMEs in India today have access to any formal lending. So on one hand, the
True.
government, of course, is trying to change that, through, say, the CGT, MSE, etc. How are entrepreneurs
Mhm.
like yourself ensuring that you are changing this, increasing the penetration really of the offerings, maybe, going to tier three, tier four? What are you doing?
So one thing that we've felt is, a lot these MSMEs, they have been starved of capital earlier for different
Hmm.
reasons. It has not been accessible to them. It has not been affordable for them. And the fact that traditional sources of capital, especially the banks, They have a very
Yeah,
rigid way of doing things, right? So the approach doesn't really change if you're a big business versus a MSME. What we felt is we need custom products for them and a custom approach. As many fintech companies emerge, everyone will pick up their niche, right? Can I service, let's say, restaurants? Can I service these, traders? Can I service service-based businesses, right? So many other such categories. At our level, what we've done is we've taken away the fact that you don't need a lot of documentation, you don't need a lot of paperwork or a cumbersome process to get a loan. What we rely on
sure.
is the data that the MSME has on Instamojo, right? So there's certain insights that
Okay.
we have basis what your business is, how you've been faring, what your transaction flow is. And basis that we have products where we are able to determine the amount of loan that we can give out to you in a real-time basis.
All right, Akash, thanks for your time here on the show. I'll take a quick break on that note. Moglix is joining us when we come back. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. With us here in Leaders of Tomorrow in the hot seat today is Moglix. Rahul, good having you here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, talking to our viewers about your inspirations, your journey, and what 2021 is looking like for you. I want to start first by asking you very briefly to describe the inspiration and the business model, really, of Moglix for those who are viewers who may not be aware.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ananda, for having me. So, Moglix is a B2B commerce company. We work with manufacturing organizations across the length and breadth of the country, and we become a one stop solution for all their procurement needs. So, you could imagine a organization in automotive space or a steel, mining, chemical, pharma, all the core sectors of the manufacturing industry. Moglix would be working very closely with them how they can benefit from using digital supply chain that we have built to become a one-stop solution on procurement side. What inspired me to get on this journey, I think 2015 is when I started the organization. And I think we started with actually a very simple line, which was that we'll create a Alibaba 2.0 because we felt that the world of classifieds was dying, and most of the consumer companies have shown that how e-commerce, whether it is the Flipkart, Amazon, or the food delivery companies, how consumers want the final end product or a service delivered to them. They no longer want to be
Sure.
connected to a service provider or a product. And that was the inspiration. We said we should do that for the B2B space, and hence the start of Moglix.
All right. Let's talk about really your fundraising plans from your own personal experience. For an entrepreneur who's watching today's interview, what would you like to tell them? If they're looking at fundraising, what they should keep in mind. Has how someone is raising funds perhaps changed, and what really they should do about that?
So I think the first important thing that I want founders to understand and know that the fundraise is not the objective. It is a means to building an organization. Because
Sure.
sometimes we take too much glory into the fundraise versus looking at the business metrics or versus looking at what is the company that you're building. And each company, each sector has different funding requirements as well. So I think the starting point for an entrepreneur should be what is the company that is building, and funding is a kind of a resource, just like people and technology that he should be required to have to build the organization. So determine what is the
Mm-hmm.
fund or the capital that you require and what is the time horizon that you need it. And then the journey of an entrepreneur through the seed, series A, B, C, it changes drastically because from a very idea stage, market size stage, who are the entrepreneurs, as you go across in the journey, it starts to change towards what is the business metrics you have achieved, what is the kind of potential size it can become. And for any first time entrepreneur, I think it is an exciting experience of going through the entire journey.
Okay, I do want you to give our viewers some insight for a business which is, as niche as yours. You don't really have many competitors, and I've been doing a bit of reading up on your business. Uh, what did you use as the pitch when you were looking at raising funds? Just use that to give our viewers an idea to say, if you have a business which is, so unique and so niche, this perhaps is what helped you, and therefore perhaps could help them.
So I think from early days, there were two things that was clear to us. We were going after actually a very large market. B2B commerce is a very, very large market. Today, we estimate it to be north of $50 billion going to $100 billion market. And it is pretty much offline. So I think our pitch to the investor has been that uh, this is a large market. The transition from offline to online is bound to happen, such as it happened in the consumer space. B2B will follow through, and we are the most passionate team with the right credentials to go out and build it. And I think at the early stages, that's the best thing that you can do, because at least for me, I spent 5 years with Google before starting Moglix, and quitting it and committing myself for next 10-year plus onto building this company, I think was a strong conviction for some of the investors to believe that we might be able to build the best team to crack this problem.
Rahul, we were talking about the fact that your business model is unique. And you also, look at the B2B market, where when you're talking e-commerce in India, typically you're talking B2C. At least that's where a lot of action seems to be nowadays. So my question to you is, what insights on the B2B market can you offer someone who's watching today's interview? Why did you decide to go after this market? And also, maybe you could draw parallels between the India B2B market and some of our nearest peers or the US market, and talk about if we are unique, and if we are, what makes us unique.
Got it. Fantastic. So multiple questions there. So first thing
Yeah,
that I want to point out is, like the B2C commerce, if you look at it, for every single consumer transaction, there is multiple B2B transactions that have happened in the background. Imagine buying a
sure.
bike. There are at least three more B2B transactions that have happened before you have gotten the bike, and therefore the B2B market is actually very, very huge. Second thing, this
Mhm.
market is completely offline and maybe not as tech savvy as the consumer world is today. So there is a huge opportunity of disruption that lies in the Indian context. The third thing I want to point out is that India, for most of the B2B, has gone and become a fragmented and, I would say, unorganized space in past. I mean, some of this
True.
was also due to the pre-GST era. Some of it is purely the digitization and the technology investment, so on and so forth. So in India, there is actually a phenomenal opportunity, much more than what you would see in US and other markets, where there is a level of organized players that exist in the B2B space.
You're saying a large part of the consumer market in India is offline. So that, of course, has been the opportunity for you. Plus, you work so closely with SMEs, Rahul. So my question is, what are some of the biggest pain points in this market, and how are you addressing those?
So if you look at it, the pain points exist both for the buyers and the sellers. Are most
Mhm.
of the sellers are SMEs, and I think they suffer from basic problems. I mean, the basic problem is, have they created digital catalogs? Do they have a supply chain? You visit a Chavdi Bazaar or a Lohar Chal, which are kind of the wholesale markets. You will find these are
Sure.
probably the most overlooked part of the country in terms of building infrastructure. Many of the buildings being like 80 years old, 100 years old, or so on and so forth, right? So so I think there is a lot of digitization and infrastructure building that we see on the supply side and the supply chain side that needs to be done, but also equally on the buyer side, if you look at it, because if you're dealing with sellers who are not digitized, who don't have organized supply chain, the entire challenges, whether it is in terms of data, in terms of trackability, is today in consumer world, we take it as given that your pizza will arrive in 30 minutes, or your food delivery from Swiggy will arrive in 30 minutes. I think in B2B, you're talking of days and multiple hours. So I guess that's kind of the change and opportunity that lies for everyone pursuing the B2B space.
My last few questions, as we're running out of time on this interview. I first want to speak about GST. GST for your segment of the e-commerce market, if you can really comment on that, that is one. And second, how has perhaps the e-commerce sector, the e-commerce segment for your business really changed thanks to COVID and the shift that we're seeing of more and more businesses now going digital?
So if you look at it, I think GST is like a once in 70 years kind of transformation for the country, because in past you would for any B2B transaction you needed excise, VAT, and I think all the things that we talk about, multitude of tax structures, I think it just evaporated in one shot, which meant that
Sure.
that is the journey India embarked almost on. How do we build modern supply chains for the country? And
Mhm.
that was just impossible pre GST. So I think that is a phenomenal impact for us to be able to build national supply chain organization as well as transform the B2B commerce in that manner. And I would say uh, probably without GST, it was like 5x harder to build Moglix. So, so that's the kind of impact GST generated for us. The second thing,
Okay.
I think the COVID taught us very interesting thing. I think COVID suddenly taught us that many of the transactions which we were doing in the offline world probably is no longer required, because
Mhm.
you have online technology, you have online commerce, whether it is a consumer or B2B, they are available and they can actually provide a fantastic customer experience delivering at your doorstep, as well as
Sure.
provide you the wide range of assortment at the reasonable price. So I think we have
Sure.
almost accelerated our online journey by 2x
Sure.
due to the COVID, because it's not about the market, how fast it is moving, it is about pure shift. And online is still such a small portion of the overall economy and the commerce transactions that a 2x acceleration is huge for us as a company, and I would say as a sector.
Fantastic. Thanks for your time here, Rahul. Completely out of time on this episode. If you have any feedback for us, our contact details is on your screens. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.